Morning, everyone. My name is Mason Duke, and I'd like to welcome everyone back on behalf of the Economic Alliance to another business training workshop. We are happy to have Roxanne Best back with us here to talk about strategic planning today. And as in the past, we will be recording this meeting so that we can upload it to our YouTube channel for people to watch at a later date for those people who couldn't join us in person or on Zoom today. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Roxanne and let her get started.
Hey, my name is Roxanne Best, and I am so excited to be here to share these strategic planning processes with you to, just help to create a structure around how you start your businesses or operate your businesses or manage projects. And I have a long history of trying to figure out ways to stay organized and stay on task. Being self-employed and working from home, it's really easy to get distracted. So being able to have ways that will help us to stay on track and not get distracted by notifications and knowing like when to turn our notifications off so we can be really present in a moment. But this is the final workshop in our series. And the whole idea was that we were building up to this final point. So we were developing, our social media strategies, our ability to create content, and that leads us up to this moment where we're implementing a plan. So one of the hardest parts when we develop all these skills and we get all these resources, it's like, okay, now what? Now what do I do? And the strategic plan is the now what? It's the part of the process where we bring everything together and create a strategy to put everything in place as it needs to be. And I am so annoyed that that keeps doing that. Um, all right. So I'm just going to jump right in. We may finish a little bit earlier today because we don't have anyone in person asking a ton of questions, but we are going to have time set aside to actually work on some of the steps that we're talking about. So I just want to go ahead and jump right into the presentation and we will get started. And if you're here, I would love to know who you are, where you're from, and what are some of the things that you're hoping to gain from this session today on strategic. So, a strategic plan, this is where we are going to leverage goal setting, task planning to develop a strategic plan based on what our organization or our businesses need to operate and their best ability. So just what we're going to cover is we're going to go over vision and mission. We're going to identify some key values in your organization. And we're going to do a SWOT analysis. And we're going to begin setting objectives and goals. We're going to identify your KPIs. And if you don't know what any of these are, that's okay because we're going to define all of this as we get into the presentation. And then we'll start to develop your strategies and create and implement your plan and monitor and evaluate your progress. So finding ways and identifying the ways that you will monitor progress and evaluate progress. So the simplest approach to any goal setting or planning process is it boils down to three things. First, you have to identify what it is that you want. What do I want from this situation? What do I want to accomplish? What do I want to have happen in my business? So first we identify what we want. A lot of times we identify what we want and we don't have a lot of motivation to make it happen. So we identify the things that we really, really, really want. And then in order to like get clear on, is it something that I really want, that I'm going to stick with my plan and that I'm going to make it happen, is we start talking, okay, have, um, I want to increase the number of yoga classes that I offer. Okay, why do I want to do this? Well, I think then I'm like, well, okay, wait, why do I want to do this? I don't really have time for it. I'm in my mind, I'm thinking it might bring in more income, but then it's going to cost me more because I'm renting a studio. So maybe I don't really want to have more classes. Maybe what I really want is more people attending the classes that I currently offer. Well, why do I want this? Because I want to optimize my time because I'm a very busy businesswoman. So if I have more people in classes I'm already offering, that brings in more revenue, and it also serves the whole time thing. So first we identify like what do we want, and then when we start to get into the second part, which is why do you want it, that's when we start to like decide, do I really want this? Because that internal motivation is what's going to keep us on track. And the third is looking at how am I going to make this happen? And this is your strategic plan. So before we can ever get into a strategic plan, we have to identify those first and second steps. What do I want and why do I want it? And we have to be really honest with ourselves about why we want something. And then do an analysis of, and I say analysis, that makes it seem super complicated, but all we're doing is exactly the steps that I went through explaining, well, I want to have more yoga classes. Well, why do I want to have more classes? Because I'm hoping it's going to get more money into my business. I'm going to get more revenue and more people will come because there'll be more options. Well, if I do that, then it's going to cost me more because I have to rent space. Well, okay, so what? And then we start to look at like, what are some other approaches? Maybe I want something different. And if what I actually want is to have more money from my yoga classes, then maybe what I actually want is more people in the current classes that I'm offering. So that's how we get down to like what it is that we really want, so that when we're developing these strategic plans to accomplish those things, then we are really focused and we're really motivated to actually make it happen. So the first step in every training, every process that I ever teach is to identify your vision and what is your mission. And I usually start with identifying your core values, and you may already have a vision and mission statement, which if you've been in the other workshops, then there are steps that we go through on how to create your vision and mission. This is where you start to envision where you want your business to be in the long term, or your organization. What do you aspire to achieve? What do you want? And saying I want to make more money, like the example that I gave with my yoga classes wasn't a great example because that was revolved around increasing revenue, and that was it's an already existing business. So that would make sense. But looking at the vision for my business as a whole and your businesses or organizations, it can't just be I want to make more money. We want to make more money. We want to increase revenue. There's something bigger. There's something besides the revenue that's there. Why did you decide to create the product or service that you created? What is that going to provide in your communities or in your families? So envisioning where you want your business or organization to be in 5 to 10 years, and what do you want to achieve with that? Yeah, it can be increasing revenue. Every business needs to increase revenue, but that can't be your vision. It's to make lots of money. That can be a part of your vision. It can be a result of living in alignment or operating in alignment with your vision. And then the next is define the purpose of your business. Why does it exist? What values does it provide to your customers? So what is my purpose? And I love to have people, when they're making their mission statements or purpose statement, is to say, I'm on a mission to, and then fill in the blank. And then, or on the opposite, you could say, my purpose with my business is XYZ, to provide space for education, to provide accessible education to diverse populations. Um, you know, so what is your purpose? Why do you exist? And what value do you provide your customers? So that brings us into the values aspect of our organization. So, what is most important to you in your organization? And that can be things like honesty, being innovative, having integrity, having a diverse customer base or diversity with our staff. It can be community and contribution. So, what is important in your business? When people talk about your business, what words do you want them to use to describe what you do? What is the foundation? And I always like people and organizations to identify at least four key values. And those are your four pillars, those are your four directions. Those are the ways that you are able to navigate through the chaos of social media, through what's happening in our home lives, through what's happening in our communities. It's a way for us to not get off track and stay in alignment with what our vision is and what our purpose is and or our mission. So that brings us back to this previous element, which is what are the things that are going to guide me and make sure that I stay in alignment with my vision and my mission. And these are just examples. They don't have to be yours specifically. But what we do with this is then we define what does honesty within your organization mean to you. And if I had every single person define what honesty means to you, we would all have a variation that is not exactly the same. Like if we look in Webster's dictionary for the definition of honesty, we can find a definition. But when we become very internalized and describing what these values are and defining them out as they relate to our businesses or organizations, it's really important that we use a definition that resonates with us. Because what that does is then it actually acts as a way for us to stay in alignment. One of my values when I did this exercise myself was is it's a dorkicorn. It's a hybrid of a dorky unicorn. And so it just embraces the fact that for me, it's important that I continuously embrace like the humor and like not take things so seriously all the time. And so it's a way to anchor myself in less seriousness. So I created a word called dorkicorn, and then I just defined to you what that means to me. It could mean something completely different to somebody else. It doesn't have to make sense necessarily, but you have to be able to define it in a way that your teams and or your customers are able to understand it, or they experience that when they work with you or purchase your product. So once you identify those four core values, then you define what that means to you and how you want that to be portrayed in your organization. And then we do a SWOT analysis. So this is where we look at our organization as a whole. We can do this for ourselves individually. If we have employees, we can look at this through the lens of our employees. And we can also have our employees do a personal SWOT analysis as it relates to their jobs. And this is a great way for us to do skill building and get to know each other in a way that feels safe and non-threatening, because we're just looking at what we're really good at, what we probably need help with, and then what are some opportunities that might be available to us? And then what are some threats? What are some external factors that could harm your business or you in your job if you're looking at employees? So we're just looking at it through the lens of just stating facts, like the strengths. Identify you and your business's internal strengths. What are you really, really good at doing? When you work with a customer or a client, what do they consistently say? Oh my gosh, that was so amazing. I love working with you because X, Y, and Z. Those are your strengths. I love buying from you because X, Y, and Z. So you list out what are the things that you're really good at. Maybe the customer service element is really amazing and your customers always feel really well taken care of, and the products that they get from you are just well packaged or well delivered. And so that would be a strength. Maybe a weakness might be the timeliness that we get our product or service delivered. It could be um, we don't have enough staff to support the growth that's happening within our business or organization. So just it doesn't have to be this isn't something that you're necessarily publishing out to the public. This is something that's happening internally so that you can start to like look at opportunities. So once we identify weaknesses, that is an opportunity for growth. Like, what can I do in order to get better at delivering my products in a more timely manner? What can I do to make sure that people are feeling like the reports that I need to generate after our events are done in, I'm not taking too long to get those back to my customers or whatever it is, whatever that weakness is that you identify, then you look at that as an opportunity to potentially improve. So, how could we improve? So, opportunities can also be maybe you have a business and you're recognizing that your business is already doing really well, but there's an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to shift gears and maybe generate more revenue or to serve your customer base better. So, what are some external opportunities that you have for growth and or for improvement? And so we like look at Amazon. Amazon, when it very first started, was a book mail order business. You went on to Amazon and you got books for probably less than you can get them in a bookstore, and you could have an option for free delivery, so it was amazing. And Amazon started out there. And then all of a sudden you could get clothes. Then all of a sudden you could get like household items. And now you can buy groceries on Amazon. And now there's Amazon locations and you can go in and shop Amazon like a store. So that's identifying opportunities. There's an opportunity that we could expand beyond just selling books. And people love those ideas. And so that's how we can look at opportunities. And then threats would be looking at like our competition. That's a potential threat. Maybe they're offering something that we don't offer and we don't have the capacity to offer. So that could be a potential threat that we might lose some customers because of that threat. Other threats could be not having enough employees to meet demand. So just looking at external factors that might harm your business. And I just want to point out that you'll be receiving a PDF or a link to worksheets that are going to help you document these whole processes. So, opportunities, threats, strengths, and weaknesses. So, then we start to look at, so once we know what our values, what our mission is, what our purpose is, and what the vision is for our business. We know what is important to us. We know what we want to accomplish. We know what we're really good at. We know what we might need to work on. We have identified some potential opportunities, and we've also recognized threats. So then we can start to look at this through the lens of strategic planning and start to come up with some goals and objectives that we might want to accomplish in our organization, our business, to start to work towards improving the things that we need to improve or addressing any threats, addressing any opportunities that we might have. So a goal is a clear statement of what you want to achieve. Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Let's say you identified that a weakness is that we don't have enough staff to accommodate the growth that's happening in our business or organization. Okay, so what an objective or a goal that we might have is we need to get trained staff so we can meet the demands that are coming our way. So that would become a goal or an objective. And that could be part of your strategic plan. But goals can also be short term, that are steps along the way to achieving your bigger strategic planning goals. So goals are a great way to maintain direction and focus. Setting goals is an essential part for growth and development in any situation, whether it's individually, whether it's organizationally, or as a business, or even in product development. As a solopreneur, I do all the aspects of my business myself, and so it's really easy to get distracted. It's really easy to get derailed and get off track. And when I have clear direction and focus, clear goals, when I have a strategic plan in place that I'm super motivated, I know exactly what I want and why I want it. The strategic planning part of it and the action steps that I need to take are super easy to follow, and I don't get distracted by different opportunities that don't align with what I'm trying to accomplish. So it keeps us focused and keeps us in line with having a direction that is going to make sure we're not like saying, okay, I want to increase my customer base by launching a new marketing campaign. Okay, so if I start doing other activities like product development, or um, I start just maybe watching TV too much, whatever it is, then I'm losing direction and focus. But and so we want to make sure, goal setting helps us to stay on task. It also helps with motivation and engagement. And like if we have employees, if employees know what our goals are, what we're trying to accomplish, we can find ways to get them in line with that and motivate them to help us achieve that goal, to stay in line with our strategic plan. So, it helps to increase engagement. And when you're able to say, these are the things that we are looking to accomplish over the next year, the next 3 years, the next 5 years, and employees or staff will start to have buy-in and excitement about accomplishing that, especially when we start to assign roles with our staff. It like, okay, your part in this, in order for us to achieve this, is, and you list out what their role might be. And that brings us to alignment and coordination. And then also goals, when structured correctly, we are able to measure success and evaluate why we did not succeed, or where we missed the mark, or what we didn't do in order to achieve the goal that we set out. One of the most common ways that we see explained how to set goals is to do SMART goals. And it's a great way to make them meaningful and effective because it's very specific. So SMART is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. So you're really specific on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Like we can't just say, I want to make more money. Okay, that's great. However, if you say, I want to increase revenue by 15% over the next 6 months, whatever, I mean, whatever it needs to be specific. So the measurable part is, I said it's 15%. That's how you're going to measure. You're going to know if you've increased revenue by 15% or not, so you can measure it. And is it attainable? Are you actually going to be able to do this over the next 6 months? Like, and then, that is completely attainable. So, or it's not attainable. So maybe I need to go back to my goal or my measurable and adjust that. Maybe I need to just increase by 10% over the next 6 months. So is it attainable and is it relevant? Relevance is, uh, according to my strategic plan, according to what I want, that first step is identifying what we want and is it relevant to that? Is this goal going to get me closer to what I want? And then timely, we said within 6 months. So we set a date for when it's going to happen. Because if so, the science behind this is that it allows our brains to have something to hold on to. And when we set a time frame, I don't know about you, but deadlines, I'm really good at getting things done the day before a deadline. With that knowledge, and most people operate this way, if you give me 6 months to do something, in the last week of that 6 months is probably when I'm going to do the most work. And I'll be able to get it done in that week when I was given a 6 month time frame. So knowing that when we make it timely, then we are more likely, when we set a due date, if you will, then we're more likely to get it accomplished. But if we just say, at some point in time, I want to increase revenue by 15%, then we're like, we may never do the actions necessary in order to get us there because it's just like whenever we want, whenever it happens, it happens. So that's where that timeliness comes in. Then there's another approach that is really great to keep employees or staff or even ourselves in constant action. The example that I gave of like, okay, I've got a 6 month deadline and I'm going to do most of the work in that last week before the deadline. So if we look at action versus outcome goals, so we set an outcome goal, but then we also set action goals. What are the things that we're going to do every single day to get us closer to the outcome that we're looking for? So, what are we going to do every single day? What is an activity that we can do every single day that's going to get us closer to what we want to achieve? Now, that's things like, let's say I want to increase revenue by 15% over the next 6 months. And so, what are the daily actions that we need to do that? Okay, well, I decided that I'm going to increase revenue by um, getting more people to attend the events that I have scheduled already. So whether it's a yoga class, a workshop, or you're doing a new product launch, you want to get as many people interested in that one item as possible. So what is the plan? How are you going to do that? Well, we're going to do social media. We're going to and then you list out all the things that you need to do. And then you think, okay, what are the daily actions that I can do to make sure that I'm making social media posts relevant to what we're trying to accomplish every single day or every week or whatever your schedule is. And then, what are the daily actions that we need to do in order to accomplish that? Then that could be, we need to get photos and video of customers. We need to get customer testimonials. We need to get images of our product or service that represent our service or that are of our product. We need to, so these are daily actions, things that we can start doing every single day. Okay, well, what kind of product or service images do I want? Do I want images of people using my product? Do I want images or video of people attending or participating in the service that I offer? So, what does that look like? Daily actions, and what are the daily actions that I can do? And that's measurable. So, did I get a photo of my product today? Did I get a photo of my product being used today? Did I get a video testimonial today or this week? It doesn't have to be every single day. These could be weekly actions as well. Because maybe you're not going to get a testimonial every day. But if you say, like, every week, I want a new testimonial. So these are things that you can start to look at actions. And you're like, you know what? Maybe I didn't get the outcome of an increased revenue of 15%, but I did the daily actions that I set out And so then you have this sense of accomplishment every single day. And also, even if the outcome isn't exactly what we'd hoped for, we can look at those daily actions or weekly actions to say, you know what, even though I did these things, I didn't get the outcome, how might I adjust? And we do a SWOT analysis of those actions to determine whether or where we need to make any adjustments. So a lot of this is the pre-work to getting into our actual strategic plan. So there's some benefits to having action-based planning. Um, and I feel like I've already gone over these without showing the slide, but I'm going to keep the slide up for a second so you can read the slide if you're reading the slide. I love the process improvements. Like we don't think about like processes when we think about strategic planning. We're like, okay, this is what we need to do. But when we look at action-based planning, we're in the strategic plan, we actually have things that we can be actionable. I was working with another organization helping with their strategic plan and doing kind of like a holistic approach to it. And we identified one of the weaknesses as we come up with ideas and we think it's the greatest thing and everybody agrees, but then we don't ever have a way, we don't ever do anything. Nothing happens. And I said, okay, what's an action that you can do to make sure that those great ideas don't just get lost in the mix? And then they came up with an action. Well, we will put a date in the calendar to have a discussion, a team meeting about how we can incorporate this idea into our organization. Great. That's an action. That's actionable. And then, they do it for a little while and decide whether or not that's something that's effective and in implementing ideas. So, so it can be something like that, or it can be as simple as, daily social media posts or going in community outreach, whatever those actions are. So, three simple steps to a strategic plan. So, I've been talking a lot about goals and actions. And when we're looking at strategic planning from the standpoint of strategic planning and not just goal setting, you identify your core strategies. So determine the overarching approaches that you're going to take to achieve your objective. For example, increasing revenue by 15% over the next 6 months. So what would a core strategy be? I mentioned social media, community outreach. So those could be core strategies. And then the tactical strategies, this is where you break down those core strategies into actionable steps or tactics. So social media, then what are the things that we're going to do? So these are kind of like our goals. So we get the big idea and then okay, what are the little steps that we can take or big steps, the big actions to ensure that we're getting results in that core strategy. And then resource allocation, this is the third aspect. Who's going to do what? Who's going to capture the images for social media? Who's going to create the social media posts? Who's going to put the posts out there? Who's going to write the copy? And then you assign those tasks or those tactics to individuals in your organization. Or if it's you, guess what? It's you. It's like I use a platform to help manage my projects right now because I work with so many different organizations on so many different projects. I was getting like all my to-dos and actions were getting like mixed together. So I started using this platform and there's a way to assign tasks to team members or actions to team members, and it's always me for every single one. And if that's your scenario, then that's totally fine, but at least you're identifying them. And what you may find though too is okay, I don't have enough time to do all this. Maybe I can allocate this out to a contractor, a virtual assistant, or maybe it's time to look at the possibility of hiring a social media manager to make sure that I'm posting every day, and they're creating the copy and doing all the things. So allocating resources is also financial allocation. So what budget do you have? So you have to create a budget in order to achieve those core strategies. So is it going to require financial support from the business, or is it something that will be free? So if you're sending an employee to an event, or you personally are going to an event, there's costs associated with that. If you're going to a conference out of town, you have to pay to get into the conference, you have to pay for travel, you have to pay for lodging. Maybe you're bringing brochures, so you'll have to order brochures. Maybe you're setting up a booth, so then you'll have to pay a booth fee. So, what are the financial obligations that I might have to allocate from my budget in order to incorporate this core strategy and make these tactics of the core strategy feasible? And then technology. So, do you have the technology necessary to make the things happen? Let's say you're going to start capturing video testimonials of your customers. So, whether they're shooting the video themselves and sending it to you, or after an interaction with your customer or client, you say, "Hey, would you mind doing a quick testimonial and talking about your experience?" And then, maybe you need to get a microphone. Maybe you need a better camera. Maybe you need an editing software. So, what technology do you have available to, what resources technology wise do you have available? And might you need to effectively incorporate and execute your strategy? So, we have to identify resources we have and resources that we might need. So I don't know if you've noticed this, but through every single step, we're doing a form of a SWOT analysis. So we're looking at what we do really well, what we don't do really well, what we might have as an opportunity, and then what are some potential threats. So for example, if I'm looking at financing, like how the budget for this core strategy, a threat might be that I don't have it in my budget to execute my plan. So that's a potential threat. So where are the opportunities to that? Well, I might be able to get a grant. I might be able to get a small loan. I might be able to look at the friends, family, and associates lending, where we ask people we know for the money in order to launch this campaign. And so, that could be a threat. Then we look at the opportunities. Where can I get this money? And and then weaknesses and strengths could be, a strength is as people trust and know that I'm reliable, and so banks and or my friends and family feel really comfortable loaning me money to launch my idea because they know they're going to get it back. A weakness could be people know that I'm not really good at paying back loans, or I'm really terrible at managing money, so they might be less likely to loan me the money. So again, just looking at everything through that lens helps us to get a little bit more clear. So what is a core strategy? I've kind of talked about this already, but these are the fundamental methods that guide your organization in achieving objectives and fulfilling its mission. So they represent the fundamental principles or the plans that shape the direction that your organization is going to go in, and any decisions that need to be made in the future. So, an example, and I always go, let's see, what's an example? If you are a business that is looking at starting a concrete business, like you're in the business of concrete, and then all of a sudden, you're not just focusing on concrete, um, and you find that you're doing a lot of different things that don't relate to concrete. Well, but your whole business strategy revolves around concrete. So then you can, a core strategy might be to get us back on track where we're back focusing on concrete installation. I don't know the correct terms. Um, but and so you can look at, like, okay, why did we veer off so far from what we initially offered? Or why are we getting so many requests to do this other type of work when our core business is concrete? So concrete as in like sidewalks and foundations for homes and driveways and things like that. So not concrete as in like it's a concrete plan, but so we have to be really clear, and these core strategies help keep us in alignment so we don't start doing things that are going to take us off course. So core strategies are the foundation of what we're doing. Concrete, if you will, the concrete. So the tactical strategies are the specific plans and actions that we create to carry out our core strategies. So these are the things that we're going to do, the daily activities, the goals that we're going to meet. And they concentrate on the implementation process, um, anything that we need to do in order to make sure that we don't get off track and we are working towards the goals. And, another reason this is so valuable is that let's say you work with a team or you work with contractors or you work with virtual assistants. If you find that your team isn't working effectively or that your contractors are taking too long to complete projects, it could be that you aren't clear enough about what you're trying to achieve. Your core strategies are not in alignment. I'm sorry, your tactical strategies are not in alignment with your core strategies or what it is that you really want to have accomplished in your business. And so it helps to keep everything aligned and everybody on the same page, if you will. Everyone has a cohesive understanding. If we've identified in our business or organization that a weakness is customer service, then we can set a core strategy that we're going to improve customer service. And these are the things that we're going to do, our tactical strategies. And then everybody's in alignment. Okay, we're working on getting better at customer service. We want improved customer feedback. So everybody gets on board and is in alignment with that. But if you have people that are like still not in alignment and they are aware, then you know that maybe they're not a good fit for your organization. But the other side of that is maybe there isn't a clear enough understanding within your team that that's what you're aiming for. So make sure that you're communicating these strategies with your team as well so that everyone can be in alignment. And then coming up with your implementation plan. How are you going to make it happen? How are you going to launch that new social media campaign? How are you going to go to more conferences to talk about your product or service? Do more networking events. How are you going to do it? And this is where you specify what actions you're going to take, who's responsible for those, what's the timeline for completion, what is the budget to make these things happen, and what are some of the risks? Like risk management is identifying potential issues before they happen so you can have a plan to adjust if maybe we don't have the budget to attend this conference. So what are some options? So risk management, always going back to that central strategy. And then the next step is to identify your key performance indicators or your KPIs. And when we're in business, you'll hear KPIs a lot, key performance indicators. There's the quantitative metric of KPIs that measure performance in areas critical to achieving your objectives and goals. And then there's the qualitative. These are things like customer satisfaction, employee engagement, and your brand reputation. So understanding like the difference in the types of KPIs and what are you focusing on? And it could be a combination of the two, or you could just be focusing on like improving customer service. That's a qualitative. So what does that look like, and define what that looks like. We're getting fewer customer complaints, or we're getting more, um, our Google reviews are in going up to 5-star reviews, where before we were getting all 2 and 3-star reviews. So, that's quantitative and qualitative. But also, employees are saying everybody's so happy. Everybody enjoys what we're delivering. Everybody feels good about our product. Um, so, determining what are your KPIs. So, a question I often get is, okay, well, what's the difference between a goal and a KPI? Because isn't a goal basically a KPI, and a KPI is basically a goal? Well, a goal is a broad statement that describes what the organization wants to achieve within a defined time frame. They represent the desired outcomes of the strategic plan. So what do we want to have happen? The what do we want question. And that's the goal. The goals provide direction and purpose, guiding the organization's efforts towards specific targets. An example, increase market share by 15% within the next 2 years. So that's a goal. A KPI, or key performance indicator, are quantifiable metrics used to measure the performance and progress of an organization or specific objective within the strategic plan. So these are the milestones. These are the if you're doing a marathon, you're looking at each mile marker as, okay, I'm progressing towards the end of this marathon. So you can measure how much closer you're getting. KPIs provide an objective measure of success. So I can't be like, I've been running for 20 minutes. I must be almost done with my marathon. No, these are based on facts, and they're measurable without someone's opinion. It's just the facts. This is what it is. Um, and an example would be monthly sales revenue, customer satisfaction scores, and employee turnover rate. Those would be examples of KPIs. So goals define the desired outcomes of your strategic plan, and the KPIs provide measurable indicators of progress towards the goals. Goals set the direction, while KPIs help monitor and evaluate the organization's performance along the way. And the final step in our strategic plan is to review what you've decided in your plan. So you want to set review dates. And on those review dates, you want to know what your KPIs will be. What are you going to identify as key performance indicators? So when you set those review dates, you're not just there talking more about strategic planning, you're actually looking at the plan that you've implemented and measuring the success of those KPIs or not success. And if we're going back to the example of the marathon, every 20 minutes, we're looking at, okay, which mile marker are you at? Or every hour, you're looking at which mile marker are you at? Are you at mile marker 10? Are you at mile marker 2? So we can just say, okay, we're going to have to pick up the pace. Maybe we're going to have to readjust the finish line time. Maybe we need to bring on more staff. Maybe we need to refuel so that we can, move faster or slower or whatever it is. So we have measurable targets. Those are the key KPIs. And then adjust the plan as needed. So if we don't go through these review processes, then we're going to get to the deadline, to the date that we decided that this should be accomplished, and we're not going to have made any adjustments in the plan in order to ensure success. So these review dates are meant to be a way for us to do another SWOT analysis to see what's really working well and what's not working so great, and how can we improve. And then maybe what is preventing us from getting to the point that we want to be in this process. So those would be the threats. And then, looking at how to make improvements to adjust accordingly. So if we don't do these reviews, A lot of times this is another element that gets forgotten is we don't review, we don't analyze and see how things are going. We don't get feedback from our staff or our team to make sure that we are on track and everything is implemented in the way that we need it. All right. I am blowing through this so fast. I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share just for a moment because I want to check in with April and just see if you have any questions. So far, April's like, I'm working. Good job. Multitask.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hold on, Daniel. I don't have any questions. I'm taking notes as we're going along, and if I do have any questions, I'll ask them towards the end.
Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna show you guys the worksheet now that you're going to get in order to incorporate all the things that we've been talking about. Okay, so this is just meant to be an accompaniment to what we're doing. So here is where you write down what is my vision and mission. So what is the vision for my business, for my project, for my organization? What is the mission? And then we do a SWOT analysis. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses, threats, and opportunities? And then we come down here where we can write out a more detailed list of threats, opportunities, strengths, and weaknesses. And then the next page is where we start to identify values. So the name of the value goes in this box. And then what does that value mean to you as at your organization or your business? And I made a lot of boxes so you can just sort of write everything out and then maybe narrow it down to, four is ideal. You can have three, you can have five. But you don't want to have so many values that it just becomes everything is a value. So you want to make sure that we're taking these, and as we're like looking at them, we might find that some of them can be combined into one value and maybe change the word, or maybe some of the values are actually a component of another one. Like if we value community and we have like connection, customers, um, local as our values, maybe community is the main value, and then those other three are elements of community, or we could say customers and then community and all the other stuff is part of that value. So we're just taking it and just making sure that we're honing it down to a really fine point and it's really specific. But this is just a space for us to write out as many as we can and define them. And then we go back and we analyze and see like which ones might be combined. And this is where we can start to set some SMART goals. Like, what is my goal? We get specific. What do I want to happen? Fill it in here. And then measurable. How am I going to measure it? And then attainable. How will I accomplish it? Fill it in here. Why is my goal important to me? Why does it matter? Or why, and you, instead of maybe important to you, also think, how is this going to help us get closer to our core tactic and our a core strategy in our strategic plan? So, what is it relevant to that? Or is this a goal that doesn't have anything to do with what we're trying to accomplish? So you want to make sure that it's relevant and then have a deadline. I also like to call these lifelines. Because I don't know about you, but every time I meet a deadline, it feels actually like a lifeline because like, okay, I've got life back. And so I'm like, I'm not like, it's not done. I'm not dead. The project's not dead. It's now at this point when we finish it that the project or the goal has life. This is when it starts to take off. And not only that, I always feel like when I finish a project on the date, it is like a lifeline because then I'm not so focused on that project. I actually get my life back. So instead of deadlines, if you want, you can call them lifelines. And so then we get back to the core of what do you actually want? So hopefully everyone, if you're in business or you already have an organization, you're really clear on what is your vision and what is your mission. And if you're not, this is where we need to start. You need to know what your vision is for your business or organization or for yourself individually. And then what's the mission? What do you want to do? And I'll say, for example, my business, my vision is to remove as much gatekeeping as possible in the space of business ownership, specifically for Indigenous women. And my mission is to empower more Indigenous women to get out of their own way and start to develop the tools that they need to be the leaders in their homes and communities that they're meant to be. That's my mission. And then I look at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to that vision and mission. So strengths are I have a lot of skills. Weaknesses is I have a tendency to do too many things and not focus on specific projects enough. So I'm like spread too thin, if you will. Opportunities might be, more and more Native organizations coming on in line that are doing the work that I enjoy doing and that I'm passionate about. The threats could be, you know, non-native organizations or non-indigenous women doing the same work with a PhD. I don't know. So I'm just throwing stuff out there just to make it. So then I would just list like all the strengths within my business, all the weaknesses, all the opportunities and all the threats. And then from this list though, then we determine which of these are relevant to the objective that we're going to identify below. So we just get all this stuff out first and all of our values out first because that's the foundation that we're building is this understanding of what we do and why we do it and what we're good at, what we're not so good at. And then we come down and we may not be at the point where we're setting goals yet because first we want to identify what we want. What do I want in my business? I want to see more Indigenous women owning businesses and succeeding and being able to support their families with their business ownership or feeling empowered to step into leadership roles in their communities. Um, I want more Indigenous women that I can work with in order to, you know, if I needed to hire a virtual assistant or a bookkeeper or an accountant, I would love it if there was a Native owned, Indigenous female owned business that I can call upon to offer these services. So, what do I want? I also want to have a business that supports my family and that I'm able to maybe retire someday. I want to start doing more speaking engagements. I want to teach more workshops. I want to work with more Native nonprofits and nonprofit organizations that offer diverse programming for rural communities. I wouldn't mind working in urban communities, but I like to focus on rural because there's less access to resources. And then why do I want it? So why? this is where it gets really, so this is where we brainstorm. And I just want to share this as well. I'm going to stop my screen share just so I can show you guys this on the full screen. So I have a notebook. It actually is a sketchbook. And what I do is I do a lot of brainstorming in this book. So you can see I've got post-it notes. I've got stuff written in different colors. I write in different angles. I like I do art. It's just a way for me to get my ideas out on paper and start to make things happen. So what I do, I try to do this weekly, and I will do what I call a brain dump. So I'll open up to a brand new sheet. I'll set a timer for 5 to 10 minutes, and everything that I need to get done or that's weighing on my mind, I write it down. Yes, all the things. And then what that does is it gets us off the hamster wheel of like all these things are just going, and nothing is happening. We're not getting anywhere. What it does is it gets us off the hamster wheel and into a space where we can actually start to take action. We can check off the things on the list. We can start to prioritize it. We can take, I'm trying to see if I have a recent brain dump. I don't. But what I do is then I'll take my brain dump and then I'll just like, okay, what do I need to get done today? And then I'll make a to-do list for today. What do I need to get done in the next 2 days or the next week or the next month? What can wait until next quarter or next year? And then I start to create a strategic plan based on that. And this is what we can do in our businesses as well, is I use this journal because it's an art journal and it's like art paper, but you can do it whatever works for you. And I decorate it because it just makes me feel more creative. Um, and that helps me to get my ideas out faster and easier. You would think that with my crazy brain that it would create more distractions, but it actually creates more focus because in this space I'm giving myself permission to be distracted and go wherever my brain goes. And it's literally putting things on paper like brush my teeth, fold the laundry, gas in the car before the road trip, fill up the water bottle, everything that's rolling around in my brain, even though it seems really like, make sure you put a pen in your bag for the workshop you're teaching. All that stuff goes on the paper because it's all the things that are rolling around in my brain. And then what I tend to do is I'll take this information and I have a whiteboard in my workspace and then I'll transfer it to a whiteboard because if you have ADD or ADHD or any form of that, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So if I were to just put this and put my notebook away, I'm going to forget about all the stuff I just wrote down. And so I have a whiteboard that's right next to my desk with all of the things written down. And if you work from home or you tend to like not know what to do, I will go to that whiteboard when I'm like literally turning in circles next to my desk going, I don't know what to do. And instead of like getting distracted by going and maybe turning on the TV or starting to do dishes or something that doesn't relate to what I'm trying to accomplish, then I can go to that list, I can stop and I can look at that list and say, what are some quick things I can do? And then once we start doing those really easy things first, then we start to get in momentum and then we pick a difficult task. Then we're like, okay, now I'm going to accomplish this. So it's just a way to overcome a little bit of that overwhelm feeling and and just get things grounded. Especially when we're an entrepreneur that we're a party of one doing all the things, it's really easy to forget or to overlook and not get things accomplished when they need to be accomplished. And, you know, we don't want to be known as a business that doesn't get things done on time or doesn't get back to customers. So we want to make sure that we're creating processes that are going to help us stay on track. And that's the value of a strategic plan. It also is a super valuable way to ensure that we stay on task. So what do you want? So what you could do is the same notebook that you're using to capture your to-do things, you could do the same with what do you want? And then look at that list, because this might not be enough space. And I want you to feel like you can write everything down. Everything you want, you can write it down. And then why do you want it? So then you start to look at each of the things on your list and you're like, okay, why do I want to upgrade my computer? Well, you know, and then you start to think about like, okay, maybe I don't really need to upgrade my computer because the computer I have right now is great. And that conflicts with the other thing that I want, which is to pay off debt. And if I buy a computer, then I'm going to have more debt. They don't have the cash just to go buy it outright. So I can wait on the computer, but I definitely want to pay off debt. And why do I want that? I want to pay off debt so I can start saving to buy a new computer. And you know, so that's how this all starts to like work together, is we take this chaos of what do I want, and then we start to get clear about why we want it. And then when we're clear about why we want it, we can determine a little bit of its priority, and or maybe it doesn't need to be there right now. So for example, am I going to not get a new computer? No, but I am going to pay off my debt first, and then I'm going to start saving so that I can go buy the new computer with cash. So, I mean, that's how you start to prioritize. And these are a little bit business related, but you know, some of it's personal also. So, when we are a business owner of one, oftentimes our personal mixes in with business. And this is another way that we can separate things out as well. So then here we take this list, we hone it down, and then we start to say, all right, what are my objectives? What do I want to accomplish? So let's say that you have decided that you want to increase your customer base and expand into a new market. And you've decided that those are the things that you want to accomplish. Okay, well, in order for me to accomplish that, I need to have some objectives. So one might be create a marketing strategy. Two might be look for conferences or events that I can attend in this new area that I want to expand into. I can, you know, so you're just listing these objectives. Maybe I need to hire a virtual assistant or contract with someone that can guide me through strategic planning process. You know, so you're writing out these objectives. And then you come down. So objectives can also be seen as your core strategies. So what are your objectives and or core strategies? Marketing campaign. Go to events in the area that I want to expand into, in the market that I want to expand into. Research other organizations or businesses that are doing what I'm doing and see what they're doing well. So market research. So those could be objectives or core strategies. And then we take the ones that are really valuable to us, objectives or core strategies. And I might change this worksheet actually so that it reflects what I showed in the slideshow. So before you get this, I might be making some updates really quick. So write out your objective in the box and the goals necessary to meet that objective and the corresponding lines. So what is the objective? Like I said, the example here is increase market share by 15% within the next 2 years. Or I'm going to, and the objective in order to do that, and then the goals or the strategic tactics, the tactics that you're going to do in order to achieve that. And then what are some KPIs? So write the goal in the oval, then on the lines below, write out your KPIs for that goal. How are you going to know that you're getting there? So let's say the objective is this and the goal is this. And then how are you going to know that you're getting close to that goal? Then you write out examples. Monthly sales revenue is going to be going up, or I'll look at customer satisfaction scores or employee turnover rate. So there's space for you to, I made a couple of pages for that just in case you have more. So the core strategy, the plans and activities that detail how core strategies will be executed. So one, you want to identify and articulate your core strategies that are going to guide your organization's approach to achieving. So I just made some examples for you to, just so you can see what this looks like in action. So a core strategy might be market penetration strategy. We aim to increase market share by aggressively promoting existing products or services to existing markets. This may involve expanding distribution channels, launching promotional campaigns, or offering discounts to attract customers. And then a customer focused strategy. We want to prioritize customer needs and preferences by delivering personalized experiences, building strong relationships, and continuously seeking feedback for improvement. This strategy aims to enhance customer satisfaction and loyalty. So then you can write down some of your core strategies, and there's more blanks for that. And then your tactical strategy. So your core strategy is your differentiation strategy. So focus on offering unique products or services that set the organization apart from competitors. So the tactic that you might do, enhance product quality and innovation. So what are the actions that you would need to do? Conduct market research to identify customer preferences and emerging trends. And then another would be invest in product development and innovation to create unique and high quality offerings. And then who's going to do what? So then this is where you assign who's responsible for what. Then you set your due dates for everything in the plan. You set out your budget in order to accomplish each element. And then how will you monitor and what will you do if things don't go as planned? So risk management. So this is just one tactical strategy. So then I just left a blank one and I formatted it. I feel like it's an easier to follow format. So your core strategy here, and then your tactical strategies, the actions necessary, responsibility, the timeline and budget, and then risk management plan. And this would be a sheet for each one of your core strategies. And then your implementation plan, I just outlined this. So objective 1 or core strategy 1, responsible parties, who's going to do what? When is it due? What's the budget and risk management? And then you just do that for each of your core strategies. And then I included a sheet for review and adjustment process. So this is where you would be core strategy 1, your first, second, third, fourth review. And then you would just set the dates for each of these reviews. And I would say if it's a year-long strategy, I would say each quarter you do a review, or you determine how often you need to review based on what that strategy is, and then include any notes like what did we discover, what are we going to do to improve, or do we just keep doing what we're doing? And then any discoveries and adjustments, this is where you outline anything that needs to happen. So then that is basically your core strategy plan and execution. And like I said, I'm going to adjust some of this wording. Like this would be core strategy instead of objective. And this is just meant to help guide you through the process. With examples. So these are the worksheets. I'm going to send these to the Economic Alliance, and then you'll have a link in order to download these, and you can fill them out yourself. Okay, any questions so far?
I had a question, Roxanne. So you spoke a little bit about the difference between goals and key performance indicators. I was wondering if you could give a similar overview of the difference between goals and objectives, and also between vision and mission.
Oh, you're asking me a good question. So goals and objectives. Let me think about that one, how I would explain it. They're really the same thing.
Oh,
Yeah. It's just different words for the same thing. And that's why I needed to change some of the vocabulary. But you can use like objectives to help you determine goals. So objectives, like I could say an objective is to increase revenue, and the other objective is to improve product or have product innovation. Another objective is to start a social media campaign, develop my email list. So those would be the objectives. And then the goals would be, okay, how much do I want to increase my email list? That's when you start to do the SMART goals. So objectives would be just like your general ideas, like this is what I'd like to do. And then you start to look at it through the lens of strategic planning, where you're, okay, if I want to increase my email list subscribers, how then we start to set SMART goals. So then we say, okay, I'm going to increase my email list subscribers by 20% over the next 3 months. And then we can say a goal is to, and then an objection can then become a core strategy. And so that so the first is like a higher level of just getting ideas out. That's the brain dump. That's the objective. And then that, as we hone in on it, then it starts to become the core strategy. And then the goals become the tactics. Like, what am I going to do in order to make this core strategy happen? So then you have your tactics, and then you transition into the action steps. Like, and that's when you start assigning actions to your staff. That help?
yeah, that makes sense to me. So it's like goals are to objectives, its tactics are to strategy. You've got
Yes.
big picture and smaller steps.
Right. And they all fold into your core tactics, your core strategy. So you have to know what your objectives are and what you want to accomplish. So then you can say, okay, the core strategy is this. And then you set up your steps underneath that, the actions. Great question, which makes me want to do more work on my worksheets. So the next element that I wanted to cover is some of the, we're going through this really fast. We might be done before noon. So our different tools that we might use in order to stay on track. There's one that this is probably one of my favorites. It's called the Freedom Journal. And this one is really pretty. They are not inexpensive, but the reason I like it is because In the beginning, you determine over the next 100 days, which is roughly a quarter in business, what do you want to accomplish? Like what's one big thing that you want to get done? And then every single day, there is a page where you write out in the morning. I'm going to try to get to a blank one. Boy. Okay. So day 37 on this page. So this is all focusing on one core strategy. So it's you do a gratitude, and then you say in 63 days, so by the time this is done, I will have accomplished whatever that core strategy is. And then my number one focus today, so this is what you do in the morning. My number one focus is what are my actions that I'm going to do today? And then you write down what those are. To get closer to my goal today, I will. And then you put one or two things or more. By the end of today, I will have accomplished. So by the end of the day, you'll have accomplished. You write it down. So what is your action plan? Thoughts and ideas, musings. So this is where you kind of do a little bit of a brain dump, like super stressed out because I just found out about this thing happening. So I need to figure out how to make sure that gets done while I'm still working towards my goal or whatever. And then at night, you say two wonderful things that happened. So it's kind of like a gratitude journal with strategic planning. And then I struggled with what was really hard, possible solutions. So I love the fact that it identifies like what didn't go right. How might I address this in the future? How might I make this not a problem? What's a solution? I love problem identification and a solution to that problem or possible solutions. It's a great way as an entrepreneur to start getting our brains to function in that space. And then and then it talks about like tomorrow it's going to be great because what are some other thoughts, ideas, musings, and then final thoughts of the day. And so it does this until the end of your 100 days. So it's basically a sprint. And then there's pauses and worked within this journal so that you can start to review like what's going well, what needs to improve. So basically everything that I just started to talk about. And it breaks it down into 10-day sprints. So over the next 10 days, this is what I'm going to accomplish towards my 100-day goal. I love this one. Another one that I used to use a lot, and this is one that I just bought this one. So I'm going to start incorporating it, and it's called the Panda Planner. And the reason I like it, and I don't so much use the monthly planner part, but this is specifically for businesses. And so, what is the vision for my company? So, your name, what is my core purpose, core values? Who are my customers? What makes us special? Why are we going to succeed? And then what's most important right now? So then you identify priorities. And then North Star goal. What is like the ultimate goal? So this is, again, this is a way that we're doing strategic planning, but with a guide. So this is Panda Planner, the venture version, VENTURE. And so then we start to write out 3-year goals, 1-year goals, and then you have what the date, the revenue goal, profit goal, details, and KPIs. So you're putting those key performance indicators in there. And then you do a review of your previous quarter. What went well? What do I need to improve? What things did I accomplish? And then what are your top issues in your organization that you need to address? You know, what is the issue? What is the core problem? What are some potential solutions? And then you come up with an action plan. So this is basically doing a SWOT analysis. So you assess opportunities. So what are potential revenue opportunities, resources? What are some risks? What is it going to cost? And then over here, this is your task list. This is all the things this quarter that I need to accomplish, quarterly goals. And then every week, this is what I'm going to do in order to get closer to those goals. And then you have a monthly calendar, so you can just have that giant overview. And then every week you go in and you assess how everything's going. This is why I really love this one. I haven't started this new one yet. And then I want to say, and then there's daily. So you have your morning routine, you do your gratitude. I'm excited about. What are you focusing on? What exercise or physical activity are you going to do? What are you going to do for renewal, for relax? What are your priorities for today? And then you schedule out your day, all the things you need to get done. And then in the evening, you write out what the wins were for that day, and then how I'll improve. I love this. I've tried doing a version of this in a digital planner on my iPad, but there's something about like pen and paper that is just for me. And what I do too is I use Google Calendar a lot, but this just forces me to sit down in the morning, plan out my day. Even though a lot of my plan is already mapped out because I'm looking at my Google Calendar and it's telling me what's scheduled on my calendar. And this is just a way for me to go, okay, I have time to go to the gym here, I'll go to the gym. I'm going to quit working at this time because that's when my last project should be complete or my last meeting happens. And then after that, it's time for family. I'm going to shut my phone off and I'm going to be done. And in between that is when I have everything scheduled. And I love that every day we're looking at priorities. What's most important for me to get done today? And then we write those out. And it's just and it's small. It comes in different colors. This one I've had for a while. But those are just, I don't know if you want to look at, that one doesn't have writing in it, so you can look at it. These other ones, sometimes they have. And then I tried another version of the Freedom Journal, which was a little bit less expensive. And it works great. It's basically the same thing. But it has a habit tracker, which if you have ADD, it's really hard to use habit trackers. They just make me insane. And it just didn't work for my brain. And so the key is to find the planners, the tools that are going to help you to stay organized. So I really wanted to show that. There are digital planners, like on my iPad, I have a calendar and I really like it, but I don't use it all the time. So I just stopped using that and I'm going back to a physical paper planner and my Google Calendar just to stay organized and on top of things. However, there is another tool that I've been using, and I've been using the free version for quite a long time. But because I work with so many different organizations, on so many different projects for each organization, I started using this project management tool called ClickUp. There is a free version. The free version is great, but it gives me my daily agenda, lineup, and then my work that I need to do today. And then it organizes the places that I work with. They're not all listed here, and then I can look at, we'll just go Northwest Native Chamber, and then I'm doing some webinars and things for them. And then I would just make a list of the different, and I haven't populated this one. But I can say like which webinar A, webinar B, and then for each one I could open it up and then I can say the due dates and adjust the due date. I can make the priority, I'll say it's urgent because it's in next week. And the assignee, like I said, it's me. And then I can add any tags, like this would be workshop. And so if I were to search workshop, then this would come up. I can track time. So if I'm working on this project, I can like track how much time it takes me. I can add a description. Then I can start to put in subtasks and action items, which I love that because, you know, then you're like getting the details and then you can look at subtasks, action items, and then you save it. And so I have it set up so that anything I have a due date will populate my Google Calendar. So it will pop up in my calendar showing that this task or this activity is due by this date and time. And it's really awesome that way because I definitely use my Google Calendar a lot. But ClickUp is just one tool that we can use. The other thing that I really appreciate about this is that you can attach documents to projects. So I don't know about you, but I get added to um, a lot of projects. And if you look at my Google Drive, it's crazy. I can't find anything. And so what I can do now is when I have a project with an organization, any documents that they share with me, I can attach those documents through ClickUp to that project, to my Google Drive. And so I don't have to go to my Google Drive and search for the document. I can just get to it straight through ClickUp, through a link, which makes it so much easier and saves me so much time. Um, but that's one of my favorite applications to use. Just want to see what my calendar looks like right now. I suppose I could turn some things off. So the other thing that I like to use a lot is Google Calendar. Google Calendar is one of my favorites. And whichever calendar works for you is the one to utilize. But I use Gmail, I use G Suite. So I have a ton of things that are linked through my website, through my scheduling app, and I can pull up my Google Calendar on my phone. I can pull it up on my watch. I can pull it up on my desktop. If I don't have any of my devices available, I can log into my Gmail account on any computer and pull up my calendar and pull up my Google Drive. So everything lives in the cloud, which is so helpful. So I'm just going to show you my calendar right now. It's a little bit crazy. Um, and so I start my week on Mondays. So if you were to look at this last week, and not everything in my calendar is me. Like I'm not attending this, the FPF convening in Santa Fe, but because I put it in my calendar because a lot of the people that I'm working on projects with are at this event. So then if they're not responding, I can look at it and be like, oh, okay, that's why. So I can add a task. I can add an event right here. If I want to make it a Google Meet, I can do that. I can add a Zoom link. I can add attendees. So for example, down here, if I click on this event, it's a Zoom. I can see all the attendees. If I wanted to pull this down, I'd be able to see everyone here. If I want, I could email everybody. So I could email all the guests through Gmail. I can click there. And they get this Zoom link. So within this, I have the Zoom link, the meeting ID, all the relevant information. So it just makes it so easy. And, you know, then I have like full days and times blocked out. And let's say I want to also add, see the webinar A that I put in. Look, there it is. It's already populated in my calendar because I said on the 15th, that's when it's due. So that's just how fast it works. And then, so if I go here, I can click on this link and then it takes me back to ClickUp and to that event. So it's just really, really streamlined. And I promise you, everything that you can do to streamline your business, you won't regret. Because the less we can take out of our minds and keep things organized, whether it's through a app like ClickUp or through Google Calendar or through a daily planner, um, it will just make us so much more productive. So another thing that I like is tasks on Google Calendar. I'm switching from task on Google Calendar to using ClickUp, um, just because I want to be able to link documents to those tasks and all those other things. But if I wanted to make tasks, it's very similar to ClickUp. I can just say pick up RX, my prescriptions, and then I can say the time I'm going to pick them up is at 2 p.m. And then I'm going to say I don't need to do anything else. This is going to be my task. So I'm going to hit save. And then you'll be able to see that today, did it populate? No, it's not there yet. But it would have popped up right here as a task that I need to do today. So that's Google Calendar. And I put things in here too, like if my yearly mailbox renewal, I have also what else? When my website renews, when I have to pay the fees for an organization I belong to. So anything that is a bill that happens every year, I put that in my calendar also, so that when I'm doing my budgeting, I know like, oh man, my car insurance, because I pay my car insurance one time. And so when that comes up, that's a big, big expense. So I want to be aware of it so I can plan. So I'll put it in my calendar that car insurance is July. So make sure you've got enough money to cover car insurance in your bank account. So it's just a way for us to not forget. Like one of the things I can't, like it drives me insane is when people say, oh, I forgot we scheduled that, because Google Calendar is free and it gives me an alert 10 minutes before an event, which can be one of the most annoying things, but it's also really great because 10 minutes before, I'm getting a notification that I have a Zoom meeting or that I have to be somewhere. But I'm looking at my calendar every single day to make sure that I am staying on track with what I need to get done. Whoa, what happened? I hope I didn't shut that down. Oh, that's what happened. I just clicked on the thing. All right. I don't know how I got through that so fast. Questions. April, Mason, Caleb?
All good.
Yeah.
Well, just thinking about.
Yeah. All right. So I do have more that I can share. It just isn't in slide form. And what I will do is I'll share a little bit about more about detail about the values. And my initial plan was that at each point that we talked about your mission and your values and your vision, that we would take a 10-minute break to work on that. And so I think that's where all the time has condensed. But one of the things that I really, really believe is going to be invaluable in your business is to identify your values and why they matter to you and define those values for your business. And so before we end today, What I'd love is for us to just take some time and think about the things in our businesses that are most important to us and what we or our organization or ourselves personally, depending on why you're here attending this workshop. Um, and every time we are able to address and align with our values, and the reason that I pick 4 values is I used to be a boat captain. I used to do underwater navigation as a scuba diving instructor. When I go on hikes or when, just in life in general, we refer back to the compass or to the direction that we're in order to help us gauge whether or not we're going in the right direction. And so when we identify 4 core values, it's like we're identifying north, south, east, and west. And with that, we can be going northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast, and still we might not be 100% in that direction, but we're in some variation. And, we're not always going to be going 100% north, 100% south. We might be in somewhere between. And so it's a way for us to make sure that even when we're not 100% on track, we're within some sort of a space between one of those directions and one of those core values. And the core values, I believe, are the foundation of any successful business or organization because that's what's going to create the culture. It's going to represent the brand of our business. It's going to be how people will begin to identify us as a business or an individual or organization. And that's our brand. So our values are the beginning points of identifying our brand and who we are and how we're going to show up and how we're going to work with our customers, how we're going to deliver our product or service. And, when people finish an experience with us, what are the things we want them to feel or think or believe? And those are starting to develop that value alignment, one of those core values. And we also want to refer back to, when we're thinking about personal core values, we look at like values that were passed down to us through ancestry, through our parents, through our religion, our spiritual practices, through our culture. And, those may have been values that were forced upon us, if you will. I don't like to use that word, but those are what we inherited because that's what we were taught. But as we become adults and we leave the home structure or we leave our village or our camp, if you will, and we start to venture out into the world, we start to develop our own versions or our own sense of what those are. And so being able to revisit this practice or this identification process is like beyond valuable. And the first time I did this exercise, I thought that it was kind of a joke and that wasn't going to do anything to push the needle in the directions that I wanted to go. But what it has done is actually helped me to create a foundation with some of the struggles as an entrepreneur that we often face, which is getting pulled in multiple directions and being able to develop a no to a request because a request maybe doesn't align with what our values are, our core values are. And creating and developing that no based in an understanding of who we are at our core and what we stand for as an organization is going to get us out of that overwhelm spiral that we often experience as entrepreneurs, where we're trying to do all the things and be all the things for everyone. And we say yes because it's potential revenue. We say yes because it's a networking opportunity. But when we say yes, and maybe that networking opportunity is with a group of people that will never ever be your customer or your client. And if we know, like, this event doesn't align with my core values, my organization's core values, our vision or our mission. So I'm going to have to decline, but thank you for the opportunity. And you don't even have to explain. And you can feel good about being rooted in those, in your stance. And then what that does is it will open up an opportunity for you to be present in spaces that actually align with your core values. And you know, if I haven't expressed it, the core values is probably like the foundation, because that's going to speak to what your vision is based in your values. It's going to speak to what your mission is based in your values. And values are the driving force for hiring employees as well. Because most of the time, organizations, you'll see that the core values of the president, the owner, the the current manager, they tend to hire people that are aligned with their core values. They don't mean to do it, but it just happens subconsciously. And so you'll see different departments in organizations, and it's a whole bunch of people that seem to be really similar. So that's how that can trickle down from the top. That's how it trickles down from the top. From, like, for example, looking at Apple products and Steve Jobs, his core values and what his vision for that business was trickled down into every aspect of the organization. Everybody was about innovation. Everybody was about challenging the status quo and seeing how we can do things differently. And so, with that, the products that came out were innovative. The things that he came up with were streamlined. They weren't for everybody, because not everybody's trying to challenge the status quo. Not everybody is a rebel, if you will. And so, that creates an atmosphere that is aligned with what his core values were, and that created the organization's brand and the products that were a result of that brand. And people buy into the idea of Apple more than they buy into what the actual product is. People will buy an Apple product because it's an Apple product, and because of what it stands for. It's almost like a little cult. I'm of that cult, but it's what we are doing as the leaders. And so it's really important to get clear on that, because that's what's going to trickle down into our employees and into the people that we work with every day. And so, and also the experiences that our customers have. So we want to be really clear about those. So one of the ways that I like to do it is I like for people to take some time. It's kind of like the brain dump. It is exactly like that, except for focusing on values. And we look at, like, what are some values that, so if we're looking at it from a personal perspective, which as the owner of our businesses, all of it is rooting from that, it's coming from that space. So it's okay to start this process from there. But if you're an existing business or organization and you're looking to realign with a new set of core values, then looking at it through the lens of, as an organization, what do we care about the most? What is important to us? Who do we have as customers right now? And what do they view as value? What is important to them? And so, if we're looking at it from an existing business or organization, we can just start to be like, okay, what is important? What do we want to be? What do we want people to say about us when we're not in the room as a business or organization? And you can look at things like community oriented, or um, empowering, or motivating, whatever it is. You start to just write those down. If you're starting your own business and you're looking at this through the lens of, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm starting my business, and I'm looking at addressing and identifying what the values of my business are going to be, you can start with yours. That's when we start to look at, like, what family values do I have? What was passed down to me from my family? What are some things that were given to me through my spiritual or religious practices? What are some values that I have gained as a person who works, or an employee? And then what matters to me? Like eliminating, now that we've got that part established, which was really things that we inherited, now we look at, okay, me personally, what's important? What do I feel matters? So, and sometimes it all relates back to what we inherited as values. And sometimes we find some new things that are really unique to us as an individual, which is where we start to set ourselves apart from our competition, which helps us in our, when we start to identify what is our unique selling proposition, what makes us different from everyone else. Well, I can tell you, if you're a entrepreneur and you're the only person running your business, you are what sets you apart from others. And by identifying those core values that you possess, you're able to identify what makes you different, what sets you apart from other people that are offering the exact same thing that you're offering. Because it's really hard to be like, well, what makes me special or what makes me different? Sometimes we have to phone a friend. like like if you were to say, this person, like, I'm special or I'm different from others because, how would you fill in the blank? And so values are like the root of all of the other developments that we do. So once we can identify those four core values and define what they are, then we can start looking, okay, based on that, how do I want to show up in the world? How do what is my identity? And then you can start to look at through the lens of like what characters might represent that, um, what made up things might represent that. And this is where we can also start to like develop logo ideas or like different things or even product ideas. And then we look at, okay, so I know my values, I know how I'm showing up in the world, my identity. And then, what are some, opportunities that might exist based on that and what I have to offer? And then you can look at like, oh, I could offer my services or products here, or I could go here. And you look at those different opportunities. And then, or I like to work with this group of people, or whatever your target market might be. You start to identify that based in like what's important to you. And then you can look at from values all the way to your strategic plan. So from values to your mission, from values to the vision. So based on that information, based on what's important to me, how I show up in the world, who I would like to work with, why does that matter so much? I can say, well, based on that, my mission is X, Y, and Z. Based on that, the vision for my business is X, Y, and Z. So by building out that foundation, we can start to expand into those statements, and they're based in an intrinsic motivation. It's coming from within. And so with that internal motivation, then we're able to inspire others to align with that internal motivation. That's a little bit like gearing a little bit moving towards a woo wooey, but it's all based in like actual practices for helping businesses come up with their vision and mission statements. They're all rooted from the base of what are my values, how do I want to show up, and who do I want to serve, and how am I going to serve them. And then from there, like, my purpose is this. My purpose is to offer a friendly space for people to come and get coffee and maybe sit down and do work and feel like they belong. That's my purpose. Or maybe my purpose is to, um, take people on adventures that they would have never experienced without the opportunity that I provide. I don't know, just throwing random stuff out there, but try not to relate it to my business and to maybe some general ideas. And so that's the importance of values. So that's why it's important for us to define what each of those values is from our own voice and not from a dictionary or from what someone else says that value is, to identify it from our own perspective. Or organizationally, like you could have a team meeting and say, okay, we've identified these as our values, and now like what is it? Let's define it for us. And then everybody contributes to that definition. So that's the base of strategic planning. And from there, all things that's like creating that fertile soil for all ideas to grow and blossom. So when we plant that seed of an idea, we've created this fertile soil that seed's going to grow from and blossom into like reality. Any questions? April, do you have any questions? No? Are you writing your values? No? Or are you doing homework?
Oh, I'm just writing notes as we go along. That's all I'm
Oh,
doing.
okay.
Trying to keep up with how fast you're talking.
I know. Well, that's why I'm like, I'm so glad this is being recorded, because then you can come back to it.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I didn't even have any. I haven't even finished my coffee. I don't know why I'm talking so fast today. I'm like,
It's Thursday. It's nearly Friday. We're all ready to go home.
is it Thursday? No, it's Wednesday. Don't
Oh,
don't
Wednesday?
don't
I'm
freak me out. We all looked at each other like, wait, what? I'm
oh,
like,
my week's just been crazy. Every day it's been crazy. Maybe
that's
that's
good.
day ahead.
Awesome. So what do you do, April?
Um, what component? Yeah. So I work two jobs. I mean, just to keep myself busy. And then, so my main job, I work for economic development for Northern Arapaho Tribe. It's an elected position. I work it's a 2-year term. My term's almost up actually. And uh, after post COVID, um, the location that we were currently at had to be renovated. So a lot of our information was destroyed. So we're having to build from the ground up again. And then same with our tribal complex, kind of like what had happened there with Cowell tribes with their main tribal complex. Remember, it burned down like maybe 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Been about 10 years. So a lot of the records and stuff got lost with our program, economic development. So, like I said, we're having to recreate everything from the ground up. But with our term almost being up, um, it didn't give us a whole lot of leeway to get a lot of things done. I'm debating on if I'm going to seek reelection. 2 years really isn't a whole lot of time to get a lot accomplished. So if I do seek reelection and I do get back on, we have a to-do list on a lot of things that we're wanting to accomplish. If I don't get reelected, then I have an idea of what I want to do. My daughter's trying to convince me to move back to Spokane or back to the reservation up there. And because she's wanting to make the move up there. And she said that there's a lot of programs up there. I mean, she's in the middle of school right now, but she's um, going for her bachelor's in psychology. So she said that there's a lot more opportunity up there to go further with her degree than there is here. So we're looking at, we're, revisiting that direction also. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of what ifs. And then on my evenings and weekends, I work for Community Entry Services, which is a program that services people with developmental disabilities. And then I work in an area for with the people that have traumatic brain injuries. And they weren't born with them. They some had happened traumatic in their lives where they developed a traumatic brain injury. So I work with them in the evenings and weekends. And being with them for 2 years, I see a need within this community or within a reservation here, because just like how OMAC is with the Calvo Res, and I mean a lot of the outlying, you know, non-native towns along the reservation. That's the program that I work with, but I see the reservation here lacks that service. So it's like, well, there's the potential to create something for the reservation here along those lines. But I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of what ifs.
Yeah.
And then I have my own ideas of, oh, I can do this, I can do that. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for businesses. I mean, I've thrown out, I've always wanted to do like a labor ready or something along those lines, because post COVID, I mean, I've seen what COVID had done, and I've seen how so many businesses struggle keeping employee looking for people wanting to work. I mean, there's just that lack of. And if we were to have a work ready or labor ready, something, and creating a partnership with a lot of businesses locally, sending these people out to work for a day or two or three. Because one of the struggles, I mean, I used to be the HR director for our casino. And then I used to help with our summer youth program. So one of the things that I've, working in that capacity, one of the things that I've noticed that the employees struggled with was maintaining a full-time job. And through that, I mean, there was a lot of factors that fell into play. I mean, I don't know if the if it's the same there, but a lot of multifamily units, and a lot of single parents, raising cousins, brothers, you know families, and having a hard time maintaining a job, transportation issues, having babysitter issues, whatever it may be. you know there's a lot of factors that play into their struggles of maintaining full-time employment. They enjoyed working, they just had a hard time making it to work. And it's like, well, if we had a labor ready program where we could work with them and say, well, I know you want to work, and I know that you are having a hard time maintaining a full-time employment. Well, could you give us or provide us, 4 days a week or 3 days a week, and we can go ahead and pay you, for your days that you give us, and we can send you here, send you there, where they may possibly utilize you based on, whatever skills or certifications that you may have, and then get them paid. That may, that'll help them but it'll also help that employer. And then one of the other things that we've noticed in the community is, a lot of theft is happening, a lot of within a lot of our local businesses, and it's because people are struggling to, and it's small petty theft, and it's because people are struggling because they don't have that income to provide groceries or provide clothing or food or whatever it may be in their own homes. And then just recently they just passed a law within one of our local towns where the third offense of a theft is they're counting it as a felony. So I mean, I don't know, there's just a lot of factors, and it's like, oh wow, we need to do something to try to help our people.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, a lot of what ifs.
Yeah, well, I mean that's where like I love that you shared all that because it just brings us back to the root of like what do you want? Like and we when we ask ourselves that question, like what do we really want? Um, what do we want to accomplish? What's like if we could only pick, if we could pick one thing, what would it be? And like you listed so many great things, like everything that you said is a great opportunity and that's a great idea and the community would benefit. But at the end of the day, it's okay, what would you actually have the capacity
To do.
to
Yeah,
incorporate? Yeah. And
yeah,
so, you know, and then look at resources, like who might be able to do this other thing, and then delegate.
right. I know. So, I mean, those are things that we've visited about on our economic development, committee. And we're like, well, what can we do? What do we want to accomplish? And we're actually getting ready to go into a meeting here in about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. The rest of the committee will be coming in. Um, but then, I mean, then I have personal goals. There's other services, you know, learning what I could while sitting on this committee about, strategic planning. And then, about 2 weeks ago, I went to a grant writing summit and made connections there. And it's like, well, if I decide not to run again for this committee, and if my daughter decides to go other avenues, and because she's a single parent, and if she decides not to move back up to Colville Res, and or up closer that way to the northwest, and we decide to stick it out down here, there's personal goals that I'm like, well, there's personal businesses that I think I would want to venture into, that there are services that I know that aren't available that I believe would do really well. I mean, just talking with people in the community that I go to for different services, and they're like, man, if you were to start one up, April, I would so totally utilize your service, and you already have my business right now if you get one started. And it's like, really? They're like, no one within 100 miles is doing anything like you're talking about.
Mm.
And it's like, wow. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's the hard thing is when you have a lot of abilities and there's so many options. That's where strategic planning is so valuable. Is like, okay, what and then also like part of a strategic plan is identifying, like we talked about, opportunities and threats and weaknesses. So and some of the threats to your idea to open locally and stay where you are is if your daughter decides to move, a threat to that idea is that you might want to move with her, right? So like that's a
Well,
potential.
yeah, it's a potential. I mean, I think if I were to get my business up and going, or if I were to go that direction, I would probably stay. I mean, I think, I don't know. I'm trying to get her to, I guess, how would you say leave the nest?
Yeah, spread her wings.
Yeah, spread her wings. Because, I mean, she did well on her own for about a year. Then she moved home after she, with her, after she started her family. And then it wasn't until recently, like in December, she finally moved out on her own again. And the first 2 months, she was like, Mom, can I just move back home? Can I? And I'm like, you're doing okay. I mean, you'll appreciate what it's like to be on your own. Just give it time. And I think now she's doing okay on her own. And she's appreciating her freedom and her house and her privacy and everything like that. And it's like, okay, you're doing good.
Yeah.
And and then now that she's talking to her professors and looking at her education opportunities and her obstacles, and then what opportunities she has up there, and then being enrolled up there, and better opportunity up there. And it's like, you'll be fine. I'm just a phone call away. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
always be. Oh, I don't know. We'll see.
Awesome. There's a lot of things that she could do up here though. Um,
Yeah.
so but that's fantastic. Yeah, like what is your business idea?
My business idea, uh, um, a laundering service, actually,
Yes.
because we did have 3 laundromats, not not on the reservation here, but in the outlying towns. There was 3 of them. One of them that's 20 miles away shut down, which left us with 2 in the town closest to us, which is like 10 miles away. And well, one of them, right around COVID, the old man that owned it, he passed away from COVID, and the son lives in New York. So he didn't want to run it, so he went ahead and just um, filed bankruptcy on it, and then just shut it down. So that leaves us with 1 laundromat now in our community that services about 20,000 people plus the reservation. And then there's about 15,000 tribal members, not including the community that's non-tribal. So there's about maybe 45,000. The population is about 45,000. And so 1 laundromat servicing this whole area. And so many, I mean, there's so many busy people that struggle to get to the laundromat. And I'm like, you know, there's nothing, no type of laundering service close by.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And I go to a nail technician, a eyelash technician, and then our attorneys for the tribe, um, and then there's a couple other, single parents, and then, the elderly that I work with, and then they're like, they would all, they're all busy, single, business owners, single moms, and they're like, we barely have time to do upkeep and do laundry at our house. We would pay you to do our laundry, and then, and I get it, the elderly, they have a hard time making it to the laundromat, or doing laundry on their own, especially if they live alone. They said
Mhm.
they would, pay for that service, have someone come in and do their laundry or pick up their laundry, get it done, and have it back home again.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
I mean, I wish we had that service here where I live because I'm a single mom. I don't have laundry in my space, so I have to go to the laundromat. And I'm like, one of my wish list items is that I have laundry service. So someone comes and does my laundry, and then it just shows up clean and
yeah,
folded.
yeah, exactly. And my
Like,
daughter, yeah, she goes to school, she works full time, she has three boys. They're 4, 5, and one just turned 7 like 3 weeks ago. So they're all in steps. And she's like, I have a hard time keeping up on laundry. I mean, it's a never ending cycle. And I'm like, yes, I get it because that's how it was. I mean, I remember it, remember that stage. So,
yeah, no, I could see that. That's a great idea. Um,
and then
what
I've
was,
done research on it. I mean, like I said, our closest laundering service is 120 miles away. And, and then I was seeing, how they do and what other people do and what they provide and what they charge. And I mean, I've already really started looking into it and looking at the numbers and everything. Yeah.
yeah, very cool. Well, awesome. Well, I don't have anything else extra. I was trying to think of something else I could maybe add in, but that's that's what I have for our workshop today. You will be getting the worksheets to work through those,
All right.
um, and start to write everything down. And other than that, um, I can't believe we finished before noon.
Yeah.
But now you'll have like an hour before your next meeting.
Yeah. I can eat my lunch and straighten up a little before
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah.
So are you in Wyoming?
I'm in Wyoming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've
Um,
been here for about 20 years now.
okay.
Yeah.
Do you where do you where in why hold on. I'm gonna stop.